Hi folks, welcome back. In today's lesson I'm going to show you how to make a plaster sprig mold for applications on the side of your pots. It's really simple and easy to make a repeated pattern this way. All you really need is some #1 pottery plaster and an original design. I'm going to show you how to set it up. I'm going to zoom in and get started. Okay, I'm setting up for my sprig mold. Again, the goal here is to make a repeatable pattern just kind of like this one. I have a little plaster mold, made my original design. You pack some leather clay in there and cut it off, and you get a really nice little sprig. You can attach it to just about anything. So first thing I'm going to do is make a tiny little slab. Again, just rolling out a very, very thin slab. It's probably a 1/16 of an inch thick. I'm going to take this stamp. The stamp is only bone dry. And I'm pushing hard enough to get my impression, but not too hard to create any undercuts. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to push this down a little bit more. I'm going to trim my edges right to the edge. Now you want these to easily be coming out of the mold, so I'm actually holding my rib here at a slight angle so there's no undercuts. Now I'm going to make a big thick coil and make what we call a gate. This is going to hold in the plaster. Want to make sure you have at least a ½ inch of space all the way around. And you want to make sure we have a nice seal at the bottom. Okay, that looks pretty good to go. I'm going to go ahead and get my plaster and we'll mix it up. Alright, to cast this small amount of plaster, we just need to use what we call the mountain method. I have some barely lukewarm water, and I have some #1 pottery plaster. I'm really just going to pour this in super slowly. Some people like to do this through a screen. You'll see some bubbles or hear the bubbles. And I like pouring it in until I see a little mountain happen. Give it a little agitation. Most people don't add enough plaster when they're doing this. If you're doing larger pieces, I recommend measuring. You can see how it's breaking down the sides a little bit more. And letting it slake. Once I see it starting to get wet all the way to the top of the mountain, I'm going to take my mixer. And your mixer will be absolutely ruined if you don't rinse that off right away. Okay, you can see that the plaster is all mixed up. Bubbles are rising to the top. I'm going to go ahead and pour this in while it's still liquid and get it all the way up. You can actually see it's starting to go off already. I'm going to give the table a little shake. See some bubbles coming up to the top. This also helps it settle around the sprig itself. And some people even take a little soft brush at this point and make sure there's no air bubbles stuck to the sprig itself. But I think we're going to be fine. I'm going to let this set up. It can take anywhere, depending, from a few minutes to an hour. But usually it starts going off pretty quick. You can already see that I can't pour that out. I'm going to let that harden in this taper container. It should just fall out in one lump. And then we'll go ahead and check it out when it dries. Okay, 10 or 15 minutes has gone by, and you can tell that my mold is now hard. The plaster had gone off, and it's also warm, and that's an indication that the chemical reaction occurred, and it's actually going to be quite hard, and it's going to work. So that's also the time where I can go ahead and take off my gate and have a look. see the design still in there. I'm actually going to let that sit there for a little bit longer, but I can take this and clean up all the sharp edges. I don't want this to be sharp. The last thing I want to do is have, you know, any bits of plaster like this get in my ceramic. It actually causes instant pop outs, mini blow ups. There's no better tool to clean up these edges of this tool than a Surform RASP. It's really just like ideal. I'm just going to round the corners, just bevel them a little bit for you know, strength reasons. It won't chip as easily. I do like to do this while the plaster's still pretty soft. You saw how much water I added. The plaster is just going to absolutely, it's completely soaked with water at this point, so I'm just going to let it dry, and it won't be a functioning mold until all the physical water is gone. So it might be a few days, a couple days outside in the sun. You want to avoid like heating it up in an oven, or definitely don't put it in a microwave to dry it. Just some heat and air blowing across it will dry this out pretty quickly in a couple days. You'll feel a difference in the weight. And when that happens, we'll go ahead and take a look. Well, my sprig mold's been sitting all day. It's still wet. I can feel the moisture in here, but you can see how the clay did come out. There's a little bit of wet clay left in there. I got to be careful. I want to pick it out. It might be a good idea just to let this dry. But you can always do a little preliminary test by taking some wet clay and just kind of loosely smashing it in there. Usually I take a tool like this and cut it level, but I just want to pull it out and see if I can get it to show me something. And this is the actual sprig that I can cut and apply. So it looks like we have another successful sprig to add to my collection, and I hope that this helps you with your sprig molds, and it just really gives you all kinds of options for more surface treatments. So give it a shot and let me know how it goes.